Welcome to Realizing Resilience, a podcast from the Connecticut Women's Consortium. We're not behavioral health professionals, but we're your gateway to real conversations with the experts. Each episode, we'll delve into the vast landscape of mental health from personal stories to expert insights. Together, we'll bridge the gap between clinical expertise and personal experiences, connecting with diverse voices and perspectives. Join us for insightful conversations that demystify the world of mental health.
Dr. David Tolin is the founder and director of the Anxiety Disorder Center at the Institute of Living and an adjunct professor of psychiatry at Yale University School of Medicine. He is the author of over 250 scientific journal articles and several books. He is the past president of the Association for Behavioral and Cognitive Therapies and the past president of the Clinical Psychology Division of the American Psychological Association. He is the recipient of the Award of a Lifetime Contribution to Psychiatry from the Connecticut Psychological Association and the Clinical Science Visionary Award from the Society of Science and Clinical Psychology. Dr. Tolin has been featured on the TV series Hoarders and the OCD Project and has been a recurrent guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Welcome back, everyone, to Realizing Resilience. My name is Marisa, and today we have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. David Tolin. Dr. David, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
My pleasure.
And I want to start off our conversation with your background a little bit. You started your career focused on anxiety disorders. What initially drew you into that topic and what keeps you motivated to keep going?
I think what originally drew me to anxiety disorders is the fact that we have very well validated protocols that target clearly definable mechanisms of action with clear effects. That is, I'm partly a clinician and I'm partly a researcher. And I'm interested not just in treating things successfully, but I'm also interested in understanding things better and trying to figure out how we can leverage that understanding to, in fact, improve the treatments that we have. And the anxiety disorders seem to be a very fertile ground for doing that.
Absolutely. And even just as the years continue, there's more information, there's more things going on. And I'm sure that your previous knowledge of what's happened and what will happen and what is happening is probably all kind of good to help you even educate others as well.
I think because there's always new knowledge coming down the pike, that means that a lot of what we know becomes outdated. And that's a good thing. That's
Absolutely.
good for science. It's good that we don't stick to the old ways of thinking about things. And I know even within the area of anxiety-related disorders, there are a lot of things that we knew 20 years ago were absolutely true that nowadays we know are not really true.
And thinking with the idea of educating and helping others, you have a training coming up on June 18th called Inpatient Suicide Prevention.
Yep.
What's one thing you hope participants will take away from that training?
Well, one of the things that I hope that people will take away from the training, maybe this is two. One is that suicide by itself is an important target of treatment. Now, that may seem just self-evident, but it hasn't always been so. Historically, we have thought about suicide as a side effect of depression. And we've thought about treating suicide as being as simple as treating the person for the underlying depression. And again, decades of research tell us this isn't right. That's not how it works. Suicide has to be treated directly. And two, the thing that I hope people will take away from this is that there are ways of reducing suicidal behavior that are very effective and relatively easy to do.
You're right. I do think there is that stigma, maybe I would say. There's misinformation, this myth of just kind of it's a one and then the other, but that's not always the case.
It's really not. I mean, you can see this when you look at pharmacotherapy trials of antidepressants. And what you see is that the risk of suicide actually goes up as the antidepressant effects start to kick in. Now, that suggests that suicide is more complicated than just a straight side effect of depression.
And keeping on even the topic of trainings, you have another training you're coming back for, which is so great, on September 5th, Buried in Treasures, the nature and treatment of hoarding disorder. So from a mental health perspective, how is hoarding understood and how does this influence treatment approaches?
Well, we're still just scratching the surface in terms of our understanding of hoarding disorder. I mean, it wasn't even an official diagnosis until about 10 years ago with the publication of the DSM-5. So we're really only beginning our journey of understanding what hoarding disorder is all about and how best to treat it. But what we know so far is that there is one thing that has been demonstrated to be effective, and that's cognitive behavioral therapy. And so in this program, I'm going to teach people how we implement the CBT approaches that have been shown to be efficacious for hoarding disorder. But in keeping with what we were just talking about before, I fully expect that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this information will be outdated. It should be. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Kind of get the knowledge while it's here and continue growing as
Mhm.
it grows.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's one piece of advice that you have with new clinicians working with anxiety related disorders or hoarding or suicide prevention? What's a little nugget you'd like to give to them?
I'll give you two nuggets.
Would love
One
it.
is, don't be afraid to ask why. Why does this work? Why do people behave that way? A lot of the time we feel hesitant as new clinicians to ask those tricky questions because we assume everybody else must know the answer. But a lot of the time they don't, and we just do things because that's the way it's always been done. So it sometimes is very helpful to the field to have a fresh pair of eyes who can come in and say, this doesn't make sense. Let's look at this from a different perspective. The second is be skeptical, not cynical, not to the point of thinking nothing's ever going to work and everything is nonsense. But if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And the field of anxiety and related disorders is full of people promising magic tricks. And unfortunately, most of these magic tricks turn out not to have much support. They don't have much behind them. And I think we need people who are brave enough to say, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think the word brave is definitely good because sometimes even when people are helping others in treatment, they feel like they shouldn't take too many risks because
Mhm,
you're risking maybe someone's progression
mhm.
or development. But brave is it's not a risk. You're doing what needs to be done to be
You are.
brave.
It's like the old fable of the emperor's new clothes, right? I mean, everybody says the emperor looks beautiful, beautiful, beautiful because they're all afraid of saying the truth. And it took one innocent child to say the emperor doesn't have any clothes on. And then that woke everybody up. We need more people like that in mental health.
I appreciate you coming to talk with me in this rapid fire meeting that we had. I'm always excited for your trainings, so I love attending them. I always leave with more information and a new perspective on things.
Oh, good.
So I'm really excited for you. I always make it a point to come and watch them.
Fantastic.
So I'm really excited for you to come for inpatient suicide prevention on June 18th and then Buried in Treasures on September 5th.
I'm looking forward to it too.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking with me today.
Anytime.
Links will be in the description to learn more about Dr. David Tolin and his work and sign up for his upcoming training, Buried in Treasures, The Nature and Treatment of Hoarding Disorder, on September 5th. Check out our links below to keep up with us at the Connecticut Women's Consortium. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.